Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Zaleski Sports Show on this Monday, January 27th. Jason Zaleski here. Steve Mave's off today. Steve will be back next week. On today's show, talk about the NBA and basketball world, sports world in general, in mourning of one of its all-time greats. What's in a name? Name change. Name changes are abound. One name change in particular, I'll be keeping mine. Talk about this week's girls and boys basketball Power 5, this week's live sports schedule, and we'll also talk about the week that was. But first, a name. Everybody's got one. What's the meaning of a name? Well, everybody's got a name. My name's Jason, by the way. Everybody has one. Maybe you have multiple names. Sometimes through the course of life, things happen, and you earn or are given a nickname. Something's happened during the course of your life that maybe was funny, interesting, or something else. And you were given a nickname, something beyond your birth name that people use to reference you. A lot of things, a lot of meanings in a name, a lot of reasons we get them. So like I said, some of those names are earned. And an earning of a name and earning of a nickname is oftentimes a distinguished honor, something we hold proud and dear. Even our real name, we certainly hold that proudly, dearly, closely. I mean, that's our identity. That's how we are known in the community and known around the area, the world. Our existence is in a name. High school names, nicknames, are part of the fabric of our communities. And other sports names, the way that we identify ourselves, the way that we talk when we get back to work on Monday morning. You know, did you see that the Packers won? You know, we identify, and everybody knows right away what we're talking about when we identify with the name. Recent news has come out right after, just after the first of the year, that the Auburndale School District was going to undergo a mascot name change, a nickname. It's going to be changed. My whole lifetime, probably yours too, Auburndale has been known as the Apaches. And I'll speak for myself. You can have your own opinion. You probably do. And I'll just speak for myself. When I think of the name Apaches, well, the first thing I think of is the Auburndale Apaches. And growing up in central Wisconsin, knowing the school, some of the members of the various sports teams throughout my lifetime, those were people I always looked up to, people I respected, people I maybe at times aspired to be like, especially in an athletic way. And then the success of the different teams, the different Apache teams throughout the course of my lifetime, including some of the basketball teams and other sports. I have, I suppose, a separate way I think of the Auburndale Apaches rather than how I think about the name Apaches. But again, the district has decided they're going to pick a new name. But I just got to thinking, okay, well, what does the name Apaches mean to me? I'm not a Native American, and I don't have a certain view of that particular name. But when I hear that name, I think of somebody in a group of people who are revered, who are respected, who throughout the course of history made their mark on the world in and again, my opinion, a positive way. A group of people that, as they made their way through the world, became well known. And it seemed to me, looking from the outside, that it would have been an honor that a school would have named itself after something with such respect and admiration. And I think that the people who belonged to that school throughout the course of history, even up until today, carried that name with those same feelings. But as it turns out, the name is going to be changed. Auburndale Superintendent James Delikowski wrote in the District Mirror back in November, and he says this: in 1998, Auburndale became more aware that the Apache Nation preferred us not to use a mascot affiliated with their community. As always, the Auburndale community did the right thing and agreed to avoid using the old mascot and worked to avoid proliferation of the label that belonged to the community of the 5 nations making up the Apache people. Okay, I got it. 22 years ago, though, I just wondered what happened 22 years ago, and then what, over the course of 22 years, made 2020 the year to do this. That part was not explained. So voting for the new nickname took place. We don't know the results to this point. We're waiting for those results to be made public. But voting took place in the community of Auburndale. And that voting started just after the first of the year and concluded on January 14th. So about 2 weeks ago, you had to cast your ballot, cast your vote, new name. And the names to choose from were the Express, the Storm, the Aubies, the Alpha Wolves, and the Avalanche. All right, and there were some reasons. There was some history. I won't go through all that during today's show. I can leave a link on the post of this show. That's on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. And you can read through why those were the options that were given to the fine folks of Auburndale and how they may have got to their choice when that new name is revealed. But it seems as though we are at the point where the Apaches will be no more. And it seems like, and again, we'll see what the voting says, seems like the Auburndale Express probably was, at least in my mind anyway, and you can make up your own mind. Again, the Express, Storm, Aubies, Alpha Wolves, and Avalanche were the choices. I think the Express for me kind of fit best. We'll see what the people of Auburndale, see if they agreed with me or not. See if they agree with you. And I know there were a lot of you out there that said, whoa, hold on here. We're the Apaches. We've always been the Apaches. And you can change the name if you want to. But that school I went to, I will always be an Apache. And that's your opinion to have. That's your sentiment. And I don't know that many in the area would choose to talk you out of that idea. So the name, that's the name. So the name of this show is the Zaleski Sports Show. Jason Zaleski here. Steve Maves back next week. Over the course of the weekend, we lost an NBA legend. News broke on yesterday morning, that in Los Angeles, a helicopter had crashed in the late morning hours on the north side of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. And one of its occupants was NFL legend, or NBA legend, my apologies, NBA legend, 5-time NBA champion, Olympic gold medalist, and what seemed like from the outside, all-around good person, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was 41 years old. His 13-year-old daughter, a budding basketball star in her own right, also on that helicopter, and also perished on Sunday morning. Kobe had used the helicopter to travel back and forth from his home to various points in Los Angeles, namely his basketball training facility, which, to what we found out yesterday, was about a 90-minute drive from his home. So he'd use that helicopter often, hundreds, maybe thousands of times. Weather reports were that the weather was a bit foggy yesterday. We won't know for a number of days what officials, experts believe caused that crash. But Kobe Bryant, dead at the age of 41, his daughter at the age of 13, and there were 7 others in that helicopter. Everybody, all 9 people, died yesterday. Kobe was an NBA champion in 2000, 2001, and 2002, and again in 2009 and 2010. Retired from the sport of basketball just a couple of years ago, and had gotten to some other very positive, very meaningful things. It looked like he was going to start a second career, a third career. If you consider his parenthood, his fatherhood that he was also under. He leaves behind a wife and 2 daughters. So the sports world mourns all day yesterday and again today with the passing via the helicopter crash and the passing of NBA legend Kobe Bryant. All right, moving on. We'll change subjects here. We'll see if we can get this the note and the tone of our show here changed a little bit. We had an very exciting week of sports action in central Wisconsin last week. Go through some of those things with you here. Again, we'll get into our upcoming live sports schedule for the week. We'll also talk about our girls and boys basketball Power 5. But again, another exciting week in the central Wisconsin sports world. It was basketball. We'll start on Friday. We might dip around a little bit during the week. We may go back and forth just a bit. But it was a boys-girls basketball doubleheader on Friday at the Boesen Fieldhouse in Marshfield. And the Marshfield Tigers hosting the Spash Panthers. And it was a really good night of sports. There were very exciting scores all around the place, all around the area. But it was interesting and intrigue in Marshfield because both Tigers boys and girls basketball teams hosting the Spash Panthers, and these were first place games. And we'll start with the girls game, and I'll jump right to it. The Marshfield girls beat Spash 50-45, and with that, they moved to 6-1 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Coach Taylor Varsho and her girls are in first place in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Marshfield Tiger girls got off to a little bit of a tumultuous start at the beginning of the season. Some questions about their roster, questions about who was going to play, who wasn't, who was on the team, who was maybe demonstrating or protesting being on the team. We'll tell you what, Coach Varsho and the girls that are on this team are in first place. And they are in first place via that 50-45 win over the Spash Panthers on Friday night. And I said it last year, but and especially at the start of this year, who in the world would not want to play for Coach Taylor Varsho? I'd want to play. I do want to play for her. Coach, if you got a pickup game and you need a guy to come off the bench, score you 4 points, that's me. Bring me up. I'll play for you, Coach. And obviously, these girls are playing for her. A lot of what I see on the court reminds me of Coach Varsho when she would play at the Boesen Fieldhouse. Just a tenacious style, aggressive, intense, determined, steely-eyed defense. Get to the basket and score. Marshfield had a thrilling win during the week against Oshkosh West, game tied, just a few seconds left, and the inbound pass. And again, I mentioned these girls playing a lot like their coach did when she was a Marshfield Tiger. This time it was Katie Johnson on the inbound pass, ripping the ball out of the hands of the Oshkosh West player and putting it off the backboard and in at the buzzer for the win. And obviously the Marshfield Tiger girls basketball team carried that momentum with them on Friday, and now they are a first place Wisconsin Valley Conference team. And I mentioned it was a girls-boys doubleheader. The boys took to the court after that. Now, they were in an outright tie for first place with those Spash Panthers, and they dominated that game. They beat Spash 78-42. I'm sorry, 57-39. They beat Spash 57-39. Marshfield Tigers now boys basketball in sole possession of first place in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. And a lot like their female counterparts, Coach Scheuer, Marshfield Tiger, boys basketball coach has his Tigers playing just a suffocating style of defense. They only let up 54 points a game. And again, as I mentioned, final score, they let up 39 against the Spash Panthers. 39 points. The Marshall Tigers play a real solid defense, led by Addison Hill on Friday night. Actually, there are a number of Tigers in double figures. If you watch our highlights from that game, and you can see all highlights on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. You see comments from Addison Hill. Hit 3-pointers during the game. And exciting game. Exciting times. If you're a Marshall Tiger fan, boys and girls basketball teams, both first place teams in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. So congratulations there. Still, though, we're just past the halfway point in the winter sports session right now. A lot of basketball left to be played. A lot of things to be sorted out. One thing we believe has already been sorted out is the best team in the area. Best boys basketball team. We'll start there. We'll go to the girls here in just a moment. Best boys basketball team in the area. And I suppose by deduction, the best basketball team in the area. Stratford Tigers. Stratford Tigers are 13-0. Beat Phillips on Friday night, 63-44. Again, those highlights on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. 34-23 halftime lead. And the Tigers just, from that point, just methodically, just wore out the Loggers up in Phillips on Friday night. I don't know if it was their best game of the year so far. It was certainly their most complete start to finish. They started the game, they went to halftime, and they ended the game all in the same fashion, just methodically breaking down and mentally defeating the Phillips Loggers. Again, the Stratford Tigers are 13-0. We also had a chance to catch up with one of the other really good teams in the area. And I hate to spoil our Power 5, but we'll go through this score with you as well. It was Auburndale 61-47 in boys basketball over at Rib Lake. Yeah, Rib Lake was 11-1 coming into that game. It was a big game. Rib Lake first place in the Merriwood North. Auburndale was in second place, just half a game behind those Stratford Tigers, a team they lost to back on January 3rd. Asked Cooper Weinfurter, Auburndale Apache boys basketball player, about that in the post-game interview. You can watch, again, those highlights and that interview on Facebook at Zaleski Sports. He said felt his team was embarrassed over at Stratford back on January 3rd, and they've been taking corrective action since then. Again, they corrected themselves partially, 61-47, with that win up at Rib Lake. So Rib Lake moves to 11-2, and Rib Lake's a good basketball team. First time I had seen them up close. But, a good basketball team in the area up in Rib Lake. And I know that's a bit of a drive. I don't expect that a lot of you listening here are able to maybe get up to Rib Lake. But if you're able to, or if you're able to find them at a venue a little bit closer to you, we recommend taking in that team. And finding out more about the Rib Lake Redmen. Again, back to what's in the name. The Rib Lake Redmen are 11-2 on the season and look to make a lot of noise in the postseason, we think, here anyway. That's what we think is going to happen. Moving on to girls basketball and all the intrigue in the area, most of the intrigue, I don't want to overstate these things, most of the intrigue in the area is in the Clover Belt East in girls basketball. And here's why. Take a look at the Clover Belt East girls basketball standings. Neilsville, 9-1. Loyal, 8-1. Colby, 8-2. Columbus Catholic, 6-4. Gilman, 5-4. But that is a heavily top-loaded top part of the Clover Belt East. Again, 9-1, 8-1, 8-2. Neilsville, Loyal, Colby, Columbus Catholic of Marshfield right there at 6-4. They beat Spencer back on Thursday night That is a tough conference, Clover Belt East. Neillsville and Loyal are going to play on Friday. 9-1 and 8-1. Matter of fact, 8-1 Loyal, they lost their first game of the year over at Neillsville. That's how they got their one loss. And Neillsville lost a 1-point road game over at Gilman. And again, Gilman at 5-4, above 500 in the Clover Belt East. It is a tough deal. And then there's Colby, right there at 8-2, waiting to find out the loser of that Neillsville Loyal game on Friday. Colby will likely slide right up into second place on Friday night via the loss. I mean, somebody's going to lose. Neillsville Loyal, somebody's going to lose that game. We'll have it live at ZaleskiSports.com on Friday night. If you can't make it over to Loyal, and get there early. That place is going to be full. It will be standing room only. If you're there after 7 o'clock, bring your comfortable shoes for standing, because you will not be able to find a seat. There's a good chance you get there earlier than that. You still may not be able to find a seat, but for sure after 7, tip time 7:15 over in Loyal, but you will not be able to find a seat over there. We don't believe. All right, let's move on now to our highly anticipated, much awaited girls and basketball Power 5. This is where we do an alphabetical ranking of the top 5 girls and boys basketball teams in the area that we think are worth your attention, worth you going to watch the games, or at the very least, again, most of these teams play live at ZaleskiSports.com. You can watch them live if you're not able to make it to the various locations around the area. And we've already mentioned, it looks like most of these teams we've already mentioned, so we'll go through them now for you. You can also find a complete rundown of these teams at ZaleskiSports.com right now on this Monday morning. You're listening to the Zaleski Sports Show. Girls Power 5, Loyal. I mentioned Loyal, 11-2. They've got a busy week this week. 3 games for the Hounds. They are at Marathon tonight, and then they play against Gilman and Neillsville. I mentioned that both Neillsville and Loyal just one loss in conference site. And then when they play on Friday, I suppose that's maybe not a guarantee that you get there if you're Loyal. I mean, Gilman, tough team. They do get to play Gilman and Neillsville at home, though. So advantage perhaps for the Hounds there. I mentioned Marshfield, 8-5 overall, first place in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Neillsville is at 12-2. They, again, have remained in the Power 5 all year long, as have the Newman Catholic Cardinals. Newman, 13-3, and they won all 3 games last week by a combined 157-70, and that included a 32-22 win over at Stratford. That's a game we had live and talked to Coach Paul Haig, Newman Cardinal, first-year head coach over at Newman, Paul Haig, about that, and asked if his girls could win games at 32, and he said, that is not the plan to score 32 points, but they did win 32-22. And they remain in our Power 5 for now. The Newman Cardinals will go up against the Assumption Catholic Royals. That game on this week. And you'll be able to find that game live at ZaleskiSports.com. You can also listen on 1320 AM WFHR. That game on Thursday. I mentioned the Spash Panthers. They're in the Power 5 for now. They're 9-5. A lot of talk out there about, geez, why'd you put them in? Well, we get to make the list. The short answer. But we think Coach Terpstra and the Panthers, they're going to be a name for the rest of the season. Boys basketball Power 5 is as such. Auburndale, mentioned Auburndale, 14-1. Marshfield boys, Tigers, 8-5, first place in the Wisconsin Valley. They play at Wisconsin Rapids on Tuesday, tomorrow. Game live at ZaleskiSports.com. You can also listen live on 1450 AM WDLB and 1320 AM WFHR. Neillsville, 12-2. And the Warriors, I think, are getting better. So let that be a word to the wise, but it seems like they're getting better as the season goes on. And they are a fun team to watch. And I mentioned Stratford, best team in the area. They play Newman on Newman Catholic on Tuesday. And then we will have Stratford Live. It's a special presentation, the Minnesota-Wisconsin border battle on Saturday, February 1st. And that has a start time over in La Crosse of 10 a.m. We'll have a bunch of other games on that day as well, including the grand finale on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border battle on Saturday. La Crosse Central taking on Minnehaha Academy, Division I. Boys basketball players abound, perhaps future NBA stars. We'll have it all for you on Saturday at ZaleskiSports.com. Only 4 boys teams in the Power 5. Had a tough time really validating a 5th team. A couple teams out there that were in the mix in our discussions, but just couldn't get one out of the rest of that group. DC Everest, Spash, Iola Scandinavia, undefeated T-Birds, by the way. Spencer, Allman Bancroft with just 1 loss. Mentioned DC Everest, they're right there with Marshfield. They've got some questionable losses, though, during the season. So those were the other teams we considered, and we decided for the time being we're going to wait 1 more week to find our 5th boys team. We'll find one next week. There will be 5 next week. We'll bet on that. All right, we wrap up today's Zaleski Sports Show. We'll bring this son of a gun in here for a landing. We've got a busy week this week of live sports. Mentioned a couple of those games already. On Tuesday, Marshfield at Wisconsin Rapids. It's a girls-boys doubleheader. It all starts at 6 o'clock. Boys game to follow. All games at ZaleskiSports.com. Over in Wisconsin Rapids, all games also on 1450 AM WDLB and 1320 AM WFHR. We'll show you men's UW Stevens Point Pointer basketball highlights on Wednesday. You can find all UW Stevens Point highlights on Facebook at Zaleski Sports Wisconsin. Already more than a half dozen out there, and we've got another 12 left to come yet this year. Thursday, it's Assumption at Newman. Game time 7:15. Also listen live at 1320 AM WFHR. Spencer at Columbus Catholic boys basketball is on Thursday. You can also listen live 92.3 WOSQ. On Friday, back to girls basketball. It's Merrill at Marshfield. You can also listen live at 1450 AM WDLB. Northland Lutheran, at Columbus Catholic girls basketball is live at ZaleskiSports.com on Friday. And then I've mentioned it. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. But if you don't make a mark in your calendar to be there or to watch it, we're going to question your sports enthusiasm. But it's girls basketball, Neelsville at Loyal. First place teams battling it out in Loyal. Man, it's going to be a good one. Coach Mike Reith, Coach John Geyer, 2 of the best coaches in the area, 2 of the best teams in the area, 2 Power 5 teams, 2 first-place teams. Tip time, 7:15. Again, watch that one live at ZaleskiSports.com. Make sure to stay tuned to ZaleskiSports.com for all the latest information, including as soon as we find out what the new Auburndale School District mascot is. We're going to put that story up there for you. Also bring you, again, all the best in the area. Didn't even mention a bunch of the games that we're highlighting this week. By the time it's all done, I've covered about 20 games during the course of the week. Nobody doing it like Zaleski Sports. Nobody. All right, guys, that'll do it for now. Again, Jason Zaleski here. Zaleski Sports Show is what you've been listening to. Have a great week, everybody, and go sports.